Gentlemen, we are now at the governor's apartment. And normally over here, I talk to you about colonization. I was first of all start by saying that in Ghana, we have so many tribes. We have about 49 tribes in this country. We have Fanti, Ashanti, Dakumba, Ewe. We have a lot. But I say this, if the Fantis and the Ashantis were united, Ghana would have never been ruled by the British. Because even with the Ashantis alone, the British could not subdue. The British realized that, we can control this area. Because what we control is better. We don't buy the gold. We only manipulate the human resources. Then we siphon the gold out of this country. But for them to do that, they would have to beat the Ashantis. Because the Ashantis was the most strongest tribe in the country. The Ashantis controlled about 50% of present-day Ghana. So they were a force to reckon with. Around 1824, there was a battle between the British and the Ashantis. And interestingly, the Ashantis thrashed the British in battle. On records, the Ashantis got hold of the commander-in-chief of the British Army, Charles McCarthy, and took off his head to Kumasi. And I learned that now, even when you have their traditional ceremony, some of the Ashanti warriors strain from the skull of Charles McCarthy. There's a trophy to show I've defeated my enemy. Yes, again, the British tried severally to subdue the Ashantis, or the British failed miserably. So they realized that there was no way they could ever defeat the Ashantis alone. So they devised the divide and conquer strategy, which always worked for them. So when we talk about Ghana, we have the coastal people, like the Fanti, Ahanta, Ga, Winneba, Sopon, Anumabu. These were the coastal guys. And these coastal guys were more like middlemen. They were making money. The Ashantis wanted to control the coast. So more like now they told the coastal guys to step aside. And then the coastal guys knew so well that there was no way they could fight the Ashantis and win. So they saw the Ashantis as a threat. And there's this saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So now the coastal guys ran to the British for protection from the Ashantis. The British brought out their terms. Okay, this is good. So what do you have for me if I should protect you? So the British were more like, okay, sell your sovereignty to me, then I'll protect you. Accept me as your ruler and your protector for 100 years, and I will do so. And unfortunately, the Fanti guys signed. You see, let me tell you a strategy. Do you know why the British could not defeat the Ashantis? Because, for you to fight the Ashantis, there were other rituals and stuff you should do before perhaps you could defeat the Ashantis. The Fantis here were Africans, they knew. So it's like, I know the weak point of this gentleman. Right. You are British, you don't know. He's Fanti, he knows. So he comes to me. Before we can beat this guy, let us do this. Let's do that. Don't pass here. Do this, do this. We'll be able to get to this guy. So the coastal guys and the British formed an alliance. 1874, they marched to Kumasi, and unfortunately, the Ashanti army was defeated. And after the defeat of the Ashanti, it made it much easier for the British to control the northern territories. You can imagine what the British did to the Ashantis. Yeah. They exiled most of their chiefs, there was plunder. The British looted most of the Ashanti gold. All the Ashantis did not complain. The next thing was, the British demanded the golden stool of the Ashantis.
But you said most of the Ashantis didn't complain.
So it's just like, I'm trying to stress a point. Okay. I'll get to that point. It's like they kept mute and gave in to the British whatever they offered, they gave out. But the next thing was the golden stool. So the golden stool was more like the soul and spirit of the Ashanti Union. And everybody in Kumasi was scared to stand up against the British. But interestingly, a woman owned up and said, this nonsense must stop. I would prefer dying on the battleground than to sit back. Her name was Nana Ya Asante.
The one the tour guy was talking about.
Exactly. And interestingly, this one was 60 years old when she took a gun and a sword, mobilized the Ashanti forces to fight the British. I'm reading a book about her. You know, when the war started, the British were confined in the southern fort that they were looking for ways to escape. Nana Asante only came out, daring them, screaming at them to come and fight her if they were strong enough, and nobody dared to fight her. But interestingly, there was a lot of disunity among the Ashantis also. Interestingly, some of the Ashantis aided the British to escape to the coast. So when they escaped to the coast, they called for reinforcement. Nana Asante was subdued again. She was taken in as a prisoner of war and later exiled out of this country. But we still remember her for her strength, her bravery, and her positive defiance. I normally say I can equally equate Nana Asante to Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Angela Davis, Rosa Parks. You know, you name them, because you know it took strength and courage for you to stand against the British, and this lady did that. So, as I said, if the Fantis and the Ashantis were one, there was no way Britain would have ever ruled this country. So it's a lesson to all of us. You know, we need unity as Africans.
Right.
Because if we are not united, there's no way this continent will ever grow. Because there's a lot of disunity. People now affiliate to their former colonial masters and listen to what their colonial masters say. But all these things should be stopped. We should come together, both Africans all over the diaspora. We should unite, and when we unite, we become a force to reckon with.
Right.
Then we can make very good use of our resources here. We help ourselves.
Right.
We wouldn't depend on aid, foreign aids and all that. But we have everything on this continent.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It's rather unfortunate we are poor. We get a raw gold in a raw state. For less, I mean economics, like your raw gold you sell to the foreign market for about maybe $10. They turn them into something and they sell it back to you for about $500. So that is what is going on. That is what is going on now. So some years ago, when colonization started, this castle served as a seat of government for the British. So this was a sitting room for the British governor. And the bedroom was right there. But at some point in time again, the capital was removed from Cape Coast to Accra. And one of the reasons why the capital was removed from Cape Coast to Accra was something I say that was peculiar with the British, wherever they colonized. It was all about money, taxes. I think the Americans had a fair share of that. Over here, we called it the pool tax ordinance, where the British imposed a certain tax on the citizens here to pay. I mean, there were a lot of educated elites in Cape Coast who encouraged the local population to rebel against that tax. So there was a rout and disturbances and all that. So the British felt that keeping the capital here was not safe. So they had to move it out of this place to Accra. And I mentioned the Americans had a fair share. Well, that I'm talking about the Boston Tea Party, where they placed a lot of taxes on tea and led to the American Revolution and all that. So we had the same encounter here some centuries back. So I'll take you through the governor's bedroom, then we descend down to the dungeons. Any questions or comments before we do so? Okay, so let's go through the bedroom.